you have a scene in there early on where Jules Rimet, the first FIFA president, or at least the important guy for creating the World Cup at FIFA, was forced to sit next to Mussolini in the stands and looked very, very uncomfortable. Probably not something you would say about the current FIFA
Yeah,
president, but
and Rime, to be fair to him, uh, I think he was clearly appalled by Mussolini and Mussolini's behaviour and how Italy used the World Cup. 38, the two bidding nations were France, and he was French, and Germany. And yeah, I don't quite understand what diplomatic strings he pulled, but he managed to get it in France, not in Germany. And that, I think, was an extraordinary achievement of diplomacy because we saw in 36 at the Olympics what Nazis would do with a big sporting event. So it would have been as 34 was in
yeah.
Italy, but magnified on a significant scale.
It this was a tool early on identified by people looking to consolidate power and tell a story about their new vision for their country, which involved the violent repression of others in service to their own power. And by 2018 and 2022, you have similar figures who are securing the World Cup to be held in their states, in Russia and Qatar. And in Qatar, there was a major groundswell that came to nothing around the human rights violations. But as you go through in your book, and as we all knew but sort of ignored, by the time of the 2018 World Cup, Russia's and the president Vladimir Putin's abuses had been multifold all over the place. Invasions, brutal bombing campaigns in Chechnya and in Syria, invading neighbors, killing political opponents, assassinating people on foreign soil, had already invaded Ukraine, was actively had invaded Ukraine. And none of this really seemed to matter that much, apart from, I think, the English, authorities sort of abstained from going. But there wasn't really much discussion even, at
Yeah,
least that I
no, I mean you're
remember.
absolutely right. The refusal of the UK government to send any representatives was specifically to do with the poisoning of Skripal in Salisbury. It was very specific because of a perceived aggressive act on UK soil. The fact that you say all these other atrocities, the first invasion of Ukraine, yeah, if we just turned away, I mean, bafflingly so. Um, but as you also say, that has been the way it's been right from the start. I mean, every every single World Cup host has used the World Cup as a way of projecting their nation. Now, some of those states have been run by pretty malign governments. I don't think the liberals in Uruguay in 1930 were malign anyway. In fact, I think in many ways very progressive. Um, but the Batlismo vision of Uruguay, of Campistegui, that's absolutely what he's promoting. But Campistegui was promoting that vision just as surely. I mean, I guess with a little bit more dignity and a little bit more restraint than Mussolini. But he absolutely was projecting an image of his nation. England was doing so in '66. The US was doing so in '94. But it's obviously some regimes are malign and some aren't.
It is Mussolini. I find it hard to look beyond because maybe it's just the state of the country I live in at the moment. But again, the echoes are just so funny to me. Like when he decided early on in the World Cup that Italy hosted in '34 that they would be given the World Cup trophy, but also the Coppa del Duce, which was his own trophy that they would also get. Just resonating for me at the moment, and the sort of iconography that people latched onto, where when they won, one of the Italian players, he was like, "What do you guys want for winning?" And all the guy could think to say was, "I would love a signed autograph photo of you, Mr. Duce." Like it is so funny, but it like you can see how these things happen in a way.
The thing I love about that story is that after they retain it in '38 and they're on the train home from France, and the players are sort of like, okay, he's probably going to ask us what we want. Nobody say a signed photo. We got to work out what we want. And so they agree that they want a lifetime rail pass, which, I mean, I guess it is useful. It's obviously more useful than a signed photo of Mussolini, but it's such small scale compared to what footballers would demand now. But the good
Yeah.
news is they get a signed photo of Mussolini as well as the rail pass.